Namaste, goddesses and our masculine supporters out there. So it's Yogini Kala, mystic artist, and that's one of my paintings behind me. I don't know if you can see another one. By the end of this video, you will have a clearer understanding of how to deal with stress coming out of Mercury being retrograde, as a light worker, as a healer, as a creative. You'll have some funny stories. So get a cup of tea. This will be a ramble. I will be talking a bit about shamanism, relationships with animals, and the symbology, and yeah, how to really know if you're going through a dark night of the soul. Okay, so as I'm filming this, it is a Sunday and Mercury has just finished retrograding yesterday, Saturday. Now, I'm not an astrologer, but I definitely felt this particular Mercury retrograde, and I want to know if you, say the last 3 weeks or so, have felt the impact. Now, I am in Western astrology. I am a Leo, and so Mercury was retrograde in Leo, apparently, because typically I don't have much of a problem with Mercury retrogrades at all. Yeah, I'm also governed by Mercury in, I also use like the Indian system, which is pretty complicated, and they use a slightly different system, and so I end up being a Virgo, because their system, I think, has adjusted, while the Western system has stayed sort of static. They're two different approaches now. But in the Western system, I am a Leo, and Mercury went retrograde in Leo. And now Leo, as you guys know, it's one of those signs. You know, it's the sun, it's positive, it's magnanimous. It has negative. The negative would be overly, you know, egotistical, showy. It is often affiliated with leadership. You know, the lion, right? I used to have big dreadlocks that went all the way down to the middle of my back. So I looked very, you know, leonine or whatever, like a lioness, but leonine. And so I want to talk to you about that because I had, you guys, so get some tea. Okay, I got to tell you a story. Oh my God, I was doing fine, doing great. But if any of you have readings that are due, I have to still finish some readings because it got so stressful this past week of the retrograde. So I'm burning some Palo Santo, tried to clear the space. I have an amethyst back there, and I'm in my usual purple. So what happened? It has to do, people, with this creature, with bats. I'm going to talk about that from a shamanistic perspective. But a dark night of the soul is when we feel like we're really being, going through a trial, being, you know, just a very, very difficult time. And for those of you who watch my channel regularly, and there are always new people, so I will always repeat that story, went through my darkest night of the soul when I was teaching and literally felt like exiled. I left, I packed up my little car, left academia where I was being bullied, and deeply depressed, suffering from PTSD, anxiety, and all of that. And that is also what I use in terms of helping women who have dealt with that. I use my yoga background, meditation, and so on to help women cope who have been through that, especially workplace bullying. That is the work that I do, as well as being a creative, a healer. So this past week, oh my God, bats. The new home, and this is why I really wanted to talk to you about this. So those of you, you know, I talk about manifesting. I wanted you to not feel bad if you watch these videos where people basically make everything perfect, right? That they manifested everything perfectly. Because this is what Spirit said to really share, is that we, you know, we go for our dreams, go for your desires, do all the spiritual work, and then do the work in the world to create them. Doesn't mean that they are born full-fledged perfect. Does that make sense? So I got this apartment. I'm happy because I got real great studio space, some other wonderful things. I very, very close to nature. and that was really important to me, just like a beautiful area for walking, and that's where I can even do some of my cloud paintings, you know. So a lot of things are wonderful, but I stepped into a situation where it turns out that there was a bat problem in the house. Now, you guys, I moved in, and I only found out, I want to say maybe 2-3 weeks after moving in. Stuff was still totally in boxes. I hear from a neighbor about the situation. Okay, so that, you know, I'm a very sensitive person, and if you're watching this, you very likely are spiritually attuned. You're a sensitive person as well. And so I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't unpack a lot of my stuff, especially in the living room. You know, I was in the studio, in the bedroom. The living room I just hadn't unpacked, but you know, I just realized I didn't feel comfortable. There were I really had some worries about these bats. Okay, so let's say Sunday, it was either Sunday or Monday. I went to sleep, and also I definitely I've been told over and over that in past lives I was a monastic, you know, a monk or a nun, like in a religious order. And a lot of really spiritual people were in past lives. I've been told this by many, many different people. And if you sort of look at my life, look at how I decorate, it's usually very, very minimal. So I sleep on a futon, and I like my futon to be very close to the ground. And that is, in fact, one of the monastic rules I wanted to share with you. Especially in Buddhism, the monks and nuns are required to take a vow not to sleep on a high or luxurious bed. A high bed, even thousands of years ago, was considered like a, you know, very wealthy. It was a sign of wealth. You're supposed to not sleep on a high or luxurious bed. Now, I didn't know that, but I've always generally liked to be close to the ground. You know, like a low bed, even on the ground on a futon. That's just how I have rolled. It's just comfortable to me. I feel like if you do roll off, you'll be right on the ground. I don't know. So I'm happily sleeping, you guys. Actually, I think I was stressed. I think I sensed something was going on. And then I hear my cat. I hear Percival jumping. Like it's specific. It wasn't just running and like, you know how cats can like run and skid. It was like a jumping sound. That was all I heard. So I reach for my lamp, and I'm turning on my lamp, and my arm is still out, and I see something go. Oh my God, you guys. So picture this. So I'm just turned the light on, and this thing is circling in my bedroom over my head, and it's flying fairly slow because, you know, it's not outdoors, so it can't go really fast. So it looks like one of those, like, almost like horror movie bats, because it's going fairly slow. It's just like, you know. Oh my God, you guys. So I take my blanket. I'm like, ah! I cover my head and I'm screaming. And then I wait like a minute. I uncover. I look. It's still going around. I do this 3 times. I'm under the blanket. I peek out. I see it. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I'm literally like in this tent of my blue blanket, and I'm just like, what do I do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? People, I grew up in the city. I have seen rats on the New York City subways. You know, they're like on the tracks, right? I've seen mice. You know, I grew up in a poor neighborhood. There are mice. You know, don't like them, but I've seen them. I've never seen a bat in person. So I'm like, oh my God, it's like a flying mouse. Okay, so share below if you had this. So it's flying around. I'm literally terrified. I've screamed. It's like 12:30 in the morning. Finally, I'm like, you got to get out. You got to get out. So I just like, I don't think I even looked. I think I covered my eyes. I just put myself in it, and I like dash out of my room. Oh my God! I closed the door. It is, yeah, no, it's 2:30 in the morning. There's more. This is the first time. I am sitting out in my studio space, so I run down the hallway, I'm in the studio space, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because I have never seen a live bat, and especially not flying. Never seen it fly, just circling around me, all of a sudden, in my room. And suffice to say, I'm pretty shaken. It takes me about 20 minutes. I go to tell the landlord, you know, hey, there's a bat. They won't answer the door. I come back upstairs. I'm a little bit like, you know, I'm a good person. I don't want to wake them up. But finally I'm like, okay, I'm not sleeping. And as I told you, I was told by my neighbors there is a bat problem that is not being dealt with. So I said, you know what? This is not my fault. I call them, they pick up the phone, and he's like, well, I can't do anything now. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm awake. He's now awake. And in the morning, someone comes, looks everywhere for the bat. You guys, goes in my closet, runs his hands down the clothes to like feel if there's anything within the clothes. No bat. We're convinced that it's gone out. There was like a little crack by my air conditioner, you know, like where it meets the window. So I'm like trying to tell myself the bat's gone. So I had not slept that night. I slept maybe 3 hours that night, right? Because it woke me up at 2:30. Really, really shaken. Getting ready to go to bed the next night. I decided to sleep in my living room. In my living room. I'm about to like close the curtain. And I see this like shadow. And that's what I want to tell you. Bats, they really, it's like now I understand all the scary movies because I see it. But this time, because it's a longer pathway for it, it just went, and I was like, oh no. I mean, I literally put my hand to my head. I'm like, oh no, oh no. Oh my God, you guys. So now it's 12:30. I called the landlord again. I'm like, there's a bat. So this is twice now, you know. I don't know if it's the same bat. Anyway, had to deal with that the night. I'm trying to think how that worked. Oh, actually called a 24/7 pest, like wildlife person, not just like dealing with them as pests. But there's a whole thing with bats. I do want to talk to you about it, but I don't want the video to be too long. 12:30, 1:45 now in the morning, this guy comes in with a net, like a butterfly net, like a big net. And he goes into the room, still in the bedroom. Now, oh, now the bat has sat. It's like this big, guys, like a little smaller than my hand here. And it's just sitting over my window because that's what they do. They like hang out. Okay, I'm amused by this now because I'm like, I wonder if that's where the phrase hanging out comes from. He's just sort of hanging over my window. And I'm like, I close the door on the guy. I'm like, okay, you deal with it. He goes, yeah, close the door. And he gets it. He gets it in like a minute. He's a bat expert, it turns out. So, guys, you know, it's funny, but I did not sleep. So I didn't sleep that first night that I saw him. That next night when it returned, I was getting ready to sleep, so I didn't sleep that night. I was so shaken up, and I basically ended up having to have rabies shots. Those of you over a certain age, you know, with rabies, they used to have to inject you in your stomach, and it was extremely painful. We all growing up remember that. Well, now it's not, but you guys, I don't weigh that much, yet I had to get 3 shots specifically to deal with if I was bitten, and then the actual rabies shot. So that's at one time. I got 4 shots, you guys, at one time. So I'm understandably upset. Myself and the other tenants in this home, which is a very nice looking home, but really the situation with the bats has been going on apparently for about 3 years. Okay, now you guys know I just moved about 2 months ago. Like I said, did not know about this. And so share below if you've ever like had a bat flying around you. It is scary, you guys. It really is. I specifically talked to someone and who, like a couple, because I don't want to give too much information, but they revealed, like the guy was scared too because you feel like they're going to fly into you, you know, because they're going around and it's a small space. You're not used to something flying inside a room. Very, very scary. And I've been like this, you know, just not sleeping well. I asked the pest expert because I was like, oh, you know, this must be a myth, right? They can't get caught in your hair. And he looks at me, he goes, well, you know, it's the juveniles. So all this is about, because now I'm fascinated by it, because I'm a spiritual person, right? I've got to go understand it and give it spiritual meaning. But he basically said, yes, the juvenile bats, the time of year as I'm filming this, it's mid to late August, like late August. Their bats are protected in the U.S., and I understand why, because I did research from 2:30 in the morning till like 10 the next day. I am like a bat expert now, okay? And when they're having their babies, you can't disturb them. So now they're flying, and they're like the baby bats, and they literally don't know how to fly. So that's like the phrase batty, and like you going into a wall and falling down. So they literally get confused, and they'll fly inside. They're trying to go back to their roost. So, you know, you had to make it funny, but it really, really has been stressful. Even my cat, poor Percival, you guys, he's like this. It's like looking around all the time, the slightest thing, even last night. So it's been 3 nights now. I have not seen a bat. I have sealed up any holes, anything that I could find, and the landlord, under a lot of pressure, I think, and, you know, just really, I mean, I was genuinely upset. I could not pretend to be upset. I was, you know, he shared with me that he doesn't like bats either, and I'm like, really? Well, it's your place, and this is something you could fix. Now he is taking the steps, and I just applaud him for doing that. It's a whole process. If any of you own a home and know about this, it's a whole process to get rid of bats without killing them, because we need them. I found out so much about them. It's amazing. One bat can eat about 1,000 bugs a night. Just one bat. So all of those bugs that would be flying around, you know, and it's funny because I swear to God, I just saw a bat. Because it's overcast right now. It's not the time that they should be out. But, so yeah, I literally, talking to my neighbor, we're like, we have PTSD, and I'm not using that lightly. Seriously, like, she said to me, I don't want to move my curtain because she's afraid something's going to fly out. She's since also seen another bat. So at this point, there have been 3 sightings within just a few days. I had to take the rabies shots, you guys. Check with your state if you're watching this for that reason. But if you are asleep in the room and you wake up and there is a bat, you cannot be sure that you were not bitten. I was sure I was not bitten. They're like, you can't be sure. They're so tiny. Their little teeth. They're really, really tiny. Their faces. And they're just like, you need to take the rabies shots. And I am not a taking shots person. I really get the minimal amount. And so now I'm having to have 4 separate shots. And the first series, like I said, was 4. So I took 4 shots, and then I have to have 3 other individual ones. So I just would not wish this on my worst enemy. I'm glad science has progressed to that point where they don't have to do that painful one that used to be directly into the abdomen. And yeah, so poor Percy, he's not eating. He had to get like a rabies shot. He is not eating as well. So bat. So what is bat about shamanically? This is from the Animal Oracle deck. Here we go, the Native American Inspired deck. And so my spiritual people, light workers, healers, you know, out there, bat is definitely needed. I said to a friend, though, she started laughing at me. I said, they're so ugly, I see why they fly at night. Like, I know that doesn't make sense, but they really are an unattractive looking animal. And yet at the same time, I realized, I watched videos and, you know, saw people having them like in little towels, not towels that get snagged in a towel, but a certain type of cloth, and they were healing them, people who were doing rehabilitation. That is about rebirth. So one of my shamanic sisters who is very, very good, she's the one who, if you watch my video about her predicting how to start my art career, and she ended up envisioning literally the images that were on my key. And it turns out this is the place where I'm able to do my art. Where before I wasn't able to. And so she's very, very, very astute. And she said to me, bat wants to be your ally. And I was like, really? Could this relationship have started off maybe in a better way? So it's about rebirth. It's about, they almost say it's like a shamanistic death, meaning any culture around the world, South American, African, if you were going to become a really deep healer, you would literally go through this dark night of the soul. Okay, now I thought I had been through that, and that lasted years. Deep, deep depression, as I said, after I left teaching. Just depression. But this past week, I really feel it was the Mercury. It was a final initiation or something, because truly, you guys, I've rarely had such a difficult week outside of that period of time years ago. Also, the very next day, like 2 days, so after the bat was finally captured, my hot water went off. And we genuinely thought, oh my God, the landlord is going to be like that. You know, I'm going to say it, I mean, like a ghetto landlord and just turn off our hot water. It turns out, no, the hot water tank just broke, like completely. It wasn't apart, it just died. Again, because of, it was probably very, very old, okay? Very, very old. Hot water heater needed to be replaced. So for 2 days I had no hot water, as well as dealing with this bat thing. Very unusual in my life that so much goes so wrong. Okay. So if you have been recently, the past few months, or even just this last Mercury retrograde, I want to read to you what this animal symbolizes, what bat symbolizes, okay? Steeped in the mystery of Mesoamerican tribal ritual is the legend of Bat. Bat is a symbol of rebirth, okay, especially for the Aztec, Toltec, and Mayan peoples. Bat embraces the idea of a shamanistic death. The ritual death of the healer is steeped in secrets and highly involved initiation rites. And they talk about how, you know, in these societies, like I said, the healer would be almost like how we call it a hazing now. They would literally be tested to see if they could withstand the difficulties and if their ego was purified enough that they could really serve as a healer for the community. They also compare it to a night of fear ritual where initiate would be sort of buried and then just like a cloth placed over them, and they had to deal with the sounds of the forest and nature and whether they were going to live or die, that type of thing. And that's what this really felt like for me. Just very, 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 very difficult. So rebirth is what bat symbolizes. Okay. Hanging upside down is a symbol for learning to transpose your former self into a newborn being. It's very similar to the tarot card, the Hanged Man, right? They really do hang with their head down. That's how they like relax. That's how they hang out. So it's at seeing things in a different way, 180-degree view of the world, right? They're also extremely social as animals. They're very warm. They stay with their community. They return to the same place to have their babies. It's really quite fascinating. So it's about letting go of the old self, letting go of the ego, letting go of old fears, old habits, old limitations, and allowing yourself to be reborn. And so it feels like that, you know, because like you guys know, I wanted to restart my art career. And I'm just starting slowly. I'm trying to make about 10 cloud paintings, and right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have like 7 of them. I wanted to get to a certain number so I could like have a show, and I actually do have a show in a cafe coming up for December. And I'm going to be making more, but I really feel like this is a point in time. So I want to ask you and say to you, if you feel like you've been going through a very difficult period, can we look at it, whether it's related to this Mercury retrograde or not, and especially if those of you who are Leos out there, if you felt it, I really want to know. These animal allies, I actually do an animal ally reading. I think a lot of people don't understand it because not so many people are into shamanism. You know, I have a diverse viewership, but I also have a lot of African American women, especially, and I feel like in our community there is not so much knowledge about shamanism. When you really look at it, shamanism is another word for what tribal cultures in Africa would have done, and to this day, active spirits, nature, gods and goddesses, that, you know, pre-existed, has been for thousands of years, and that connection with nature. So I have reached actually a place of peace with bat. Serious. I literally said to myself, I said, you know, if I see another bat, I know I'm still going to be scared, but what I said to myself is, I literally, you know, wrap my hair, and I talked to myself. I said, you're going to just stand quietly. You're going to go into the corner of the room, because the way it flies, you're going to go to the corner of the room, let it settle, and then you're going to go over to a window. You're going to open a window, and it feels the draft, and it'll go out the window. Because I don't want to be living in fear, you know, as this thing is healed. I've also, and also at the same time, and this might sound weird to some of you, but probably not to others, I also just in my mind spoke to Bat, and so there apparently is a roost here. The guy, the pest guy, is charging a sum of money to get them out of the home. So we were right, the tenants, it's not just 1 or 2 bats, there's like a family of them. And, but what I did is just mentally said, you know what, this is my home. I did an affirmation, I deserve a clean, comfortable, cozy home. And I just, you know, I did that several times and really meant it. And I said, you know what? You have where you live, right? You know, I'm up at the top floor, so they're up in like the attic and towards the front or whatever. That is your home. You don't want to be where the people are, because that means usually you end up being killed. The babies end up getting hurt, getting lost. There's no food in here for them. So if you stay in your space, this is my space. So I literally just did that. Okay, sounds weird, but our ancestors would have done that in any culture. There was this sense of there was connection with nature. It wasn't like all this separate, this, you know, scientific approach, which is fine for some things, but it does not explain everything. It just does not. All of our ancestors, whether you're Eastern European, right, heavy folk tradition there, African, South American, Pacific Islander, Native American, all really communicated with nature. So I just sent that message and I said, you know, and because it is the juveniles, the teenagers, if one gets lost, this is how I'm going to react. I'm going to try to stay calm. I'm going to open a window and let it out. But I'm saying to you now, this is my space, you stay in your space. And it's been 3 days, I haven't seen any. I'm prepared if I do, as best I can be. And so I just want to say to you guys, you know, what has been happening for you? How can you take it and get the growth out of it? Okay, there's always something, even if it's us adding meaning. As human beings, as intelligent, spiritual beings, how can we give a meaning to our difficulty? Whether it's a divorce, whether it's a horrible breakup, whether you broke your ankle. You know, I had a friend that happened to, and there were reasons for it. I had another friend who, a woman who knows she broke her ankle because she literally, it was her first day on a job that she absolutely hated. She could not do, and as she's leaving the job, she stepped off and broke her ankle. And, you know, and they're like, well, they let her go because she was going to be out of work for like, I want to say at least 6 weeks or something. And she says she knew that's why she slipped and fell. So look for the reason. It could be, it's not necessarily something you're doing, it's some growth for you to have. And for me, this bat thing has been very much about dealing with fear, which is, you know, bats are seen as so fearful and horrible, and yet without them, we literally, without them killing pests for us and pollinating plants, you know, they're currently endangered. They're currently endangered. So we find them ugly or repulsive. You know, I know there's some people out there who love bats, but, you know, in general, and we link them with all these horror stories, and I can actually see why. The nighttime aspect, that they fly at night, the aspect they hang upside down, they're strange looking. I'm gonna definitely grant that. But you know, all God's creatures, right? I said to myself after a couple days, I said, probably the bat thinks that humans look weird. They probably think our heads are huge, and they're, you know, and I read too that they really are freaked out when they, you know, encounter a human. They're just like, oh my God, especially in a closed space. They don't want to be there. So what is the message of this? I don't know. I'm going to have a drink. The message of this is, if you're having a difficult time and you want support, come for a reading. I have one that is, you know, what, an animal that could be your ally reading. And the more popular one, for folks who don't know anything about shamanism, the one that's more popular is just where you bring a question. It's a clarity, and whether it's about you're going to lose a job, or how to find a partner, you know, how to find a boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't read for like how to get someone back. I read, you know, for what's the best for you in a certain situation, and what you can do to actualize what you want. Okay, that's really important. So I see us, as I said, always in co-creation. And like I said, for me, this thing going back to bat being fear, you know, I was having some fear around certain issues, and I do think, wow, it showed up in my space. You know, yes, there's this roost of them, but it showed up. And so life, like I have a video, you know, the universe is talking, are you listening? So I hope this was helpful, or at least entertaining. Okay. I pray that you do not directly encounter bat unless there's a lesson there for you, and certainly not in any bad way. Maybe you just see it flying by outside. I also realized, you guys, that I had seen something fly by out the front of my house, but like I said, when they're outside, they're so fast. It really is like smoke. It was like, whoosh, and I was like, whoa, whoa, what was that? Since I've watched some YouTube videos now, those are bats, like leaving a house. They just have a certain manner of flight. So it's just been fascinating. Share with me how Mercury retrograde has been for you. I would love to know if it's been positive. Some of you, again, depending on your individual chart, it may have been very, very positive. But it also is there a life experience or an issue that you've come to some healing around? I would love to know. And I would love to work with you and help you process whatever is happening. All right? Mwah. Be well. Namaste. Bye-bye.